Next question. Jiu-Jitsu, BJJ, Jiu-Jitsu, during your time in Iraq. If you like, please paint me a picture how to imagine a BJJ class from you as an active soldier. Did you have a gi, mats, and how would it differ from a quote-unquote normal class?
So, yeah, I always brought mats with me, starting with 1998, I think, is when I started bringing mats with me.
How do you bring mats? Do you just be like, hey?
In military transport, you build something called a pallet. So you get a big pallet, and they're like 8 feet by 8 feet. Yeah. They're pretty big. And you stack all kinds of stuff on them. Yeah. And, you know, you got your weapons.
Just
you got
whatever
your radios,
you like.
You got your engines. You got your motors. You got your You got your boats, your Zodiac boats. You got paddles. You got all this. I mean, all the equipment. Everyone's personal gear is on there. Their op gear, their body armor. It's all on these big pallets. And when you go on deployment, you'll have 8 pallets, 8 of these giant pallets. And so on some of those pallets, there would be mats.
So who is it up to, though? You know, you're talking about weapons and Zodiacs and stuff, and then mats. Like who's it up to?
Well, whoever's in charge, which a lot of times was me. So then it made it real easy. Yeah. And even if it wasn't me, I mean, everybody, you know, if people are bringing something to help everyone get better, you know, people, that's cool. So
is it like an approval process?
No, man.
You just like, this is what
bro, there was guys bringing all kinds of crazy things on pallets, man. I remember guys, you guys would bring surfboards. I mean, they'd pack their surfboards on pallets. They'd pack weights and squat racks and anything that you want. You know, if you're going on a 6-month deployment to a remote location, you're gonna load out a squat rack and a bunch of bumper plates. Cool. And if that remote location has waves, you're packing surfboards. If it has, rock climbing, you're gonna pack rock climbing gear. Yeah, I'm telling you, this is one of the things that it's really hard to the SEAL teams. It's really hard to have that. I think we in the SEAL teams have that better than most people. Just this autonomy to kind of make things happen and do kind of cool stuff. Yeah. And I'm not saying no one ever gets to do that, but you know, I don't think a regular Army unit or regular Marine Corps unit would be putting, 7 surfboards on their pallets.
Yeah. So where's the limit though? Like, so what can I? Let's say can I get a TV? Can I get a TV?
Oh, guys are bringing TVs,
like big screen TV.
Yeah. It also depends on where you're deploying, what you're doing, what the mission is. Because, my first time to Iraq, we didn't have much of any of this stuff, obviously, right? We just had our op gear, basically. But the second time I went to Iraq, we brought more, but we actually had to weld a squat rack. It's pretty awesome. There's a Marine, there's a great Marine that was with us, and he manned the radios, and he was just an awesome guy. And he was a Marine, but there was Marines across the river, and so he was supposed to keep continuity, and he got assigned to us. Anyways, awesome guy. And he knew how to weld. He was from a farm up in Montana or something, so he knew how to weld.
And he had the gear.
And we didn't have a squat rack, and so our CBs, because there was a bunch of CBs with us too, they were able to just come up with stuff. They'd make anything happen. My head CB was CBs build things, and they also acquire things. Let me put it that way.
CB is combat builder?
It's combat engineer battalion. It's construction battalion. That's what it is. So it's CB for short, but it's the CBs. Yeah. And so they build things, and they also are very good at acquiring things. Things just show up at your base, and my guys were awesome at acquiring things. And we didn't have a squat rack, which is crazy to me to have no squat rack, right? Why don't you have a squat rack? So
it's ridiculous.
This Marine welded a squat rack. Now here's the interesting part: the squat rack. He was tall. He was like maybe 6'4" or 6'5", maybe not that tall, but he was definitely the Marine welder. So on this squat rack, there was there's adjustable things to put the bar on. Well, this didn't have adjustable things. It just had 2 hooks, and there was one hook at his height. Or one set of hooks at his height and one set of hooks at my height. Everyone just had to figure it out from there. Yeah. But yeah. So yeah, you could bring that if you wanted to. And so yes, we brought mats. I brought mats on that deployment, and both my deployments to Iraq brought mats. And then What are the classes like? Well, generally you're training with people that don't know anything. Mm-hmm. And I would have trained with them in the workup, so they're starting to learn, and they're like, low-level white belts or mid-level white belts or even high-level white belts. I don't think I even had one blue belt on either one of my deployments. And the good thing is they're team guys. They're athletic. They're strong. They're in good shape. They want to learn, so they learn fast. They're tough. They're, like I said, strong and athletic. So you're going to get good rolls.
Yeah.
I mean, the more you teach them, the better the rolls get. Talking about gi or no gi, I never traveled with a gi for the military, I don't think. And so what I started wearing almost all the time was cami pants and a t-shirt. And what's cool is I did that as soon as I started jiu-jitsu, I was training with other SEALs that were in cami pants and a t-shirt, because it didn't make sense to wear like a cami top.
Yeah.
And so what's cool is, without even knowing it, when no one was training no gi, I was actually training no gi, because I was just training with guys with t-shirts on. Now they were wearing pants, but anyway, so yeah, that's what we'd wear: cami pants and a t-shirt. Would we occasionally put on op gear? Occasionally, but not very often. The other thing you got to watch out for with my former organization in the SEAL teams is there's guys that would go nuts. Like they didn't want to tap because you get major egos. And so guys could occasionally go psycho. Sometimes when I'd pit certain people against each other, sometimes I'd have to basically officiate / be a safety officer to make sure that no one actually got killed. Because they'd be trying to kill each other and no one wants to tap. And you have to be like, hey man, you can't, your arm's about to get broken. Stop. So you had to do some of that. And I am a bit of an instigator.
Yeah, I know.
Sure. I mean, you see it now. I still do it on the mats today. I mean, if there's two guys that are going hard against each other, but maybe they're not going super hard.
Yeah, they could go harder.
It's real easy to escalate that.
Yeah, I know.
And so I would escalate matches between guys as well. And then, I'd just roll with everyone. So yeah, what would the class be like? We'd teach some moves, just like a regular jiu-jitsu class. Teach some moves, go over some stuff, and then roll. Yeah. And that's it. Pretty simple. Yeah. Good times.
Yeah, I found that if you can do little drills with yourself, if you're a high-level guy and you're going with a white belt, especially if they're athletic, what you do is you know how like when you roll with a guy who's maybe one level, give or take, from you, or let's say they're one level lower, you'll kind of slowly put yourself into better or worse situations. Right. You won't go all out or nothing like that. Yeah. But this is kind of counterintuitive. If you go with like a beginner, but they're athletic, what you do is you think of a finish.
Yeah,
or
you
a
make
position,
yourself do that.
Yeah, as fast as you possibly can.
Oh.
So if you're like, okay, I'm going to start on the bottom.
So you're going to force it
No. Well, depends on what you mean.
Go as fast as you can. You don't have to force it.
Yeah, but
you have to force an arm lock. If you say I'm going to finish this with an arm lock, you're going to have to force him into that position somewhat.
Yeah.
I mean, you can set it up, sure.
Yeah, exactly right. That's really the drill. Is you got to set it up. Given what he does, and he could be retreating the whole time. Sure, it's going to take longer. That's just how jiu-jitsu is. But that's the drill in your head. Rather than, let's say an intuitive method to roll with a white belt is let's just go light. Let's see what he does. Let him even get a good position on you, and then I'll work out or whatever. But no, don't do that. Be like, okay, I'm going to treat this person like a person that I have to in real life subdue with, and you choose whatever way.
That's a good game to play, actually. Yeah. That is a good game to play.
And then you get real good at that, like going from one thing and then...
It's also, I don't play that game very often. I don't know what, there's something that snaps in my head sometimes where I'm like, okay, I'm going to just smash this person. But, sometimes I'll be watching the clock, and when there's 40 seconds left, I'll be like, all right, I'm going to try and submit this dude in the next 40 seconds. Or this is when I'm going against someone that's good. You know what I mean? Honestly, I do that with you sometimes where you can feel me chilling, and all of a sudden I'm like, oh, wait, there's only 30 seconds left, and I have to go super hard to try and get you. And sometimes I don't give myself enough time. And so then I have to learn to get better.
Yeah. And me saying that, agree. Like, I don't do that in training.
Because what I normally, my lazy instinct is I always go just enough better than the person I'm going against to maintain and eventually finish them.
See, and that's good because you give the other guy good training.
Yeah.
And that's kind of the point with you don't want, if you go in regular jiu-jitsu class and you're like, upper belt, meaning like purple, brown, black belt, and you go against a white belt, you get paired up with a white belt. I'm not saying necessarily to do that all the time because it's it's a relationship you have with your training partners. So if I'm like, okay, every white belt I go against or any beginner, I'm just going to go as hard as I can. It's like, bro, what are you doing to the guy?
No,
sure, good,
cool.
sharp.
That's why for what you're saying, for blue belts to do that is not good. For blue belts to do that, white belts, they don't have the skill yet to really do what
that's
you're doing.
Too.
It should be like purple belt, brown belt, black belt.
Yeah.
That's going to be like, okay, I'm going to test my efficiency on making this happen really quickly.
Yeah.
Blue belt against an athletic white belt is going to be World War VII.
Yeah, yes, true. That's
and there's injuries that are waiting to happen.
Yeah,
because a purple belt generally is not going to get injured, not going to generally injure someone from being in a bad position. Blue belt, white belt, maybe it could be some bad scenarios.
Yeah, and so really the point in doing that is like in a scenario like your situation where you don't have anyone to train with except for beginners that are all athletic and hungry. So it's like, okay, well, what do I do? You know what's cool? That's a good way
I would come home from deployment better at jiu-jitsu than when I left, for sure. That happened on every deployment. When I came home, I was better at jiu-jitsu than when I left. But not only better than I was, but I was in keeping with the standards of the guys I was training with.
Yeah.
So, I'm rolling with Dean before I leave, and I come back, and I am now doing better than I was against Dean before I left, where he's been here training the whole time. So that says to me that is an effective way to train. You just and so that's why there's really no excuse. A lot of people ask, what should I do? I live 4 hours away from the closest gym. Man, get some friends, put some mats on the ground, watch YouTube, and start training with each other. Yeah. And occasionally when you get the chance, go somewhere to a school once a month, once every 2 weeks, so you can learn.
Yeah. And I think in your situation is kind of a not necessarily unique, but kind of a specific type of situation where you have all the fundamentals essentially down.
True.
So, like habitual stuff that you just automatically do with certain techniques, which is the correct technique, So I think that you'll benefit more in that way, where you can train with beginners and train a certain way.
But I'm talking about when I was a blue belt myself.
Yeah,
I still got a lot better when I would be on deployment.
Yeah,
and when I was a purple belt, when I was a brown belt.
Yeah, still, it's just like just a smaller version of that idea. Where if you're a beginner and you're like, okay, I've never taken jiu-jitsu, I'm gonna start on YouTube or whatever. I don't think you can benefit from those situations.
Oh no, you can definitely benefit from those. Not as much. You can't. Yeah, you definitely not as much. But you can benefit.
Yeah,
you can definitely benefit. You can definitely benefit.
Yeah.
It's better. It's 1,000 times better than not doing anything and not training.
Oh, yeah.
And if you got one person that has that gift of being able to understand what's happening, maybe you got a wrestler in there, bro, that's going to help you so much. Or maybe you got someone that did judo, maybe that's going to help you so much.
Yeah.
But even if you don't, you just start looking at it and saying, okay, what's happening in this? What's happening right there? Okay, try that arm lock on me. And you get some of those good YouTube videos that really break things down well.
Yeah.
You can learn a lot. I think you can, because I didn't have to learn that way, luckily.
Yeah. Luckily, you got to train with the best guys in the whole entire world. So, hey, to each their own.
Kinda
and
nice.
I dig it. Actually,
spoiled.
Yeah. Actually, Hodger Gracie, who's,
we
not even arguably top 3 all time ever.
Yeah.
He was actually telling me, he's like, I don't have a team of world-class guys to train with. He's like, sometimes I train with Braulio, sometimes, because he's in England.
He's in England.
Yeah, so he's like, I only train with my students and who are good and they give awesome training, but they're not. I don't have world-class training partners like my opponents do, kind of thing.
Yeah.
And
the results speak for themselves, kind of. Pretty amazing.
Yeah. So, man, to kind of teach their own, but all these things, can be beneficial even if they don't necessarily seem like it.
Yeah, and you know what I think? Actually, this is leading to is you get what you make out of it, right?
Yeah, exactly. Yeah.
And there's people in the UFC that have done the same thing. That came from some random camp and they're training hard and they go and win. Yeah. The Conor McGregor. He didn't come from Greg Jackson.
Yeah,
he didn't come from American Top Team. Mm-hmm. He came from their school with Kavanaugh. And obviously they're doing something right, but same thing. He didn't have the highest level guys to train against. Yeah. He trained. I'm not saying slagging off their training partners, but it wasn't a known camp when he came around.
Right.
He's a guy like that. Max Holloway, he's out in Hawaii, right? He's training hard, but he's coming out here winning the UFC championship based on his training partners. Yeah. So I think guys that actually understand what they need to do, they do it. They get it done. Yeah. They don't make any excuses.
Nope, at the
they
end
don't
of
even
the
want
day.
any excuses.
Yeah. Yeah, but at the end of the day, that's it, right?
Check.